This is iFanboy Pick of the Week, number 946, brought to you by Joke. And iFanboy listeners just like you. Oh, I was supposed to say a joke there.
Ron Burgundy, motherfucker.
My name is Josh Earl Flanagan. No, that's not right.
Josh Earl Flanagan, that's new.
Josh Earl Jones. No, I'm just Josh Flanagan. I'm here with my host, Conor, Conere, Kilpatrick.
Go fuck yourself.
This is iFanboy Pick of the Week, number 946. There's a joke. Wait, it was a joke, right?
Yeah.
Every week, one of us picks the book they like the best from their stack of comics. We call that the Pick of the Week. We will talk about that book. We will talk about other books, comic book issues. We will talk about both comic book issues and comic book issues.
And also our issues, personal issues sometimes.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to avoid those. There will be a patron pick. Maybe the patrons next time can pick our issues. They can be like, we've all voted that we should talk about this issue. And
you know what people love is when we tell stories from college when they have no context for. But
yeah,
you and I both majored in television production. We used to these TV studios in our college. And the joke in my class, one of my mini production classes, was if anything went wrong, it was, we've got issues here. There are issues. Mm-hmm. And so finally, somebody's year-end project was making a show called Issues that was all about all the problems in the studio. So like the person in Master Control will be like, I've got issues. I've got tape issues.
Here's what I remember about that whole scene. Many people had to make things because that's what you did. You made a show or you made very few funny people.
Well, speaking of which, let's just keep going.
Okay.
For the senior or junior year class, like the last time I did a production class in the studio, you know, everyone had a final project and you had to staff up. You had to assign everyone a job in the class. Except for my own project when I directed it, because you were the director, I was cast as the cast. In every production, to the point where Professor Ree, who you know, was like, Conor has to do an actual production job. He can't just be funny guy in the scene or playing Martin Luther King Jr. I was cast in every single production.
I gotta say, that seems like a miscasting.
It was a miscasting. It was bad. Luckily, it was all in shadow. It was just my silhouette.
Right. Because everything else about you reminds me of the Great Rover.
Yeah. In another project, I played the guy who shot the subway cart with the BB gun. It was an interrogation scene, and I was the guy who shot out the BB gun. Okay. No one knows what we're talking about. I was cast as talent pretty much every time. Yep.
And at the end, I didn't know how to do anything.
Exactly.
I graduated with that degree. I didn't know how to operate anything.
My strategy for the lighting board was turn them all on.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't learn how to do lighting until we started doing our own show. And I was like, oh, that's what the key light means. I see.
Let's move on.
There will be listener mail. It will be a good time. If you're listening, you pick that out. That's perfect. You could edit that whole bit out. You wouldn't even notice it.
Nope.
If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you go into your podcast app and set iFanboy to auto download. It helps us out. Otherwise, you could forget about us.
Yes.
And no one wants that. You'd be like, what am I missing? What's this void in my heart? I can't quite put my finger on. It's
something's missing in my life.
It's almost certainly not me. If you're listening on Pocket Cast, you can now give the show a rating.
Ratings.
You need to... I pointed like off to the side to
That's
cue
why
you.
I was cast as the talent in all the production.
I was like, don't let me down. And you didn't. I knew you wouldn't, but you need to be subscribed to download a few episodes before you can rate it. So take a few minutes and do that. Thank you. We won't bother you with this stuff.
Much longer.
Maybe
one more episode, 2 more.
Do we want to do it? No. Are we doing it? Yes. But how much of life is that? Let's get on with the show. Here's your spoiler warning. There will be spoilers. We talk about what happens in the books. Conor had the pick.
I think this might be the latest we're ever starting with the pick in the show.
Oh, we did 4 minutes like a few weeks ago when I did it.
All right, well, we'll see what this looks like after the edit. Maybe I'll cut that whole bit out. No one will know what we're talking about.
Okay, but only if you leave what you just said in.
Oh, I totally will.
Okay.
So I had a lot of books. I had over 20 books, I think 21, 22 books. And I think you and I have been mentioning off and on in the last couple episodes, or just maybe to ourselves, that we've been reading a lot of indie books, meaning books not from the big two.
Yeah.
I had, I don't know, like 4 Marvel books, I think like 7 DC books, then I had 10 indie books. And I liked a lot of them. I thought those were some really good stuff this week.
That's been really consistent with me for the last, I don't know how many months. The plurality of books has been not Marvel DC. It's like half other and then
there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in Image and Boom and Dark Horse and other places. But when I finished my books, I finished them on Wednesday, did a little sleep on it because I had a lot of things I enjoyed quite a bit. And I came up with the pick being the Tin Can Society #1 from Image Comics and Rick Remender's Giant Generator imprint. Plot by Peter Warren and Rick Remender. Script by Peter Warren, who's a TV writer. And art by Francesco Mobili.
Is this the first Giant Generator book that isn't primarily a Rick Remender book?
It might be. I'm not going to stake my life on it, but I haven't, seen any other
possible.
ones.
Yeah.
This is a 9-issue miniseries, and I was really impressed with the entire package. I thought it was almost like Exhibit A on how to build a world, how to give you the information you need, and also how to structure a first issue that introduces a mystery that makes you want to know more. So the story of this book is these kids, a group of high school misfits who call themselves the Tin Can Society for reasons that are explained in the book.
There's a tin can.
It's all about a tin can. They've grown up, and the new kid in school who had spina bifida and walks with the 2 cane crutches grows up to be a super genius superhero. He is murdered. Page 1 is his dead body, so this is not a spoiler. And so now his friend, who is a paparazzi, she is convinced that someone in the Tin Can Society is responsible for his murder. And so this issue is her going around to everyone from that little group of friends and letting them know their friend has died. I thought the structure was really strong to the point where you get to the end where she's like, one of these people did it. And that's a classic sort of opening mystery, right? Like, we're in the room with the killer. We just don't know who that killer is yet.
It's a cross between Watchmen and the movie Tag.
Really good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just was really impressed by that. And I thought, like, we talk about a lot of these books where, we're multiple issues in and we don't know anything about the characters. We don't know what they want or need or desire. I feel like I know all of these people a little bit, at least. I know the main character, I think, pretty well. And I thought there was a really good job of characterization work. I thought it was really good at plot structure. I have no questions about the basic structure of this story after one issue. And I think it was a really good job of Peter and Rick working together on the plot, and then Peter Warren, the writer, executing on a really well done, I thought, piece of single issue work. And I'm really now excited about this mystery. I want to know what's going to happen. Like, this was the one comic this week, maybe other than G.I. Joe, which we're going to talk about next, where I really wanted to read the next issue right away.
Yeah.
I thought Francesco Mobili was really strong. Really, really strong character work.
So before I get to my review, I just want to point out something that I just noticed. And it is that on the cover is the lady, the photographer. I checked to make sure it's her. She's holding a gun here, although she had a gun.
She's got a gun in the book, too.
Also, in the book, she sells a photo of a side boob for $5,000. But on this cover, side boob.
You're right. She could have photographed herself.
That's what I'm saying. I started this. I had no idea what it was. And I had no idea it was a Rick Remender book, actually, until I sort of got to that credits page at the beginning. I goes, oh, that's interesting. I can't remember seeing a story that he sort of plotted but didn't write. I've seen it work the other way. And I don't know who Peter Warren is. She says he's a TV writer, but fair enough. The first page is what looks like a murdered superhero, and badly murdered, by the way. This is a graphic image of a brain blown out and legs bent the wrong way. And it really is a lot like Watchmen. That didn't occur. I was like, oh, that's kind of what this... But that's not a problem. As I started reading the flashback section, it occurred to me, I was like, this is really good.
Yeah.
Like, very much so. Like, surprisingly so. Because I think that my first instinct was like, oh, the concept is kind of... I've seen that. There's a murdered superhero person, and then we go back and meet them. But it was sort of as I was going, like, it really hit me. And that was my main takeaway from this book. And I was like, I think that was really, really well done. You make the point, like, I was instantly into the story and I knew who everyone was and what was going on. And I, like, a lot of times we sit here and I'm like, who is this person? I can't, and it sounds like two doddering men who can't figure things out. But it isn't always that.
I mean, it's a little bit of that. There's always a little bit of that at the surface.
And when the next one comes out, we're not going to remember which one the teacher guy is. But it's important to say that, like, the artist did a really good job of differentiating these humans. They all look like different people in a way that makes it much easier to keep track of whatever. Again, by the end, I was like, I want more of this. I was surprised. I don't know. I didn't know it was going to be really good, and I kind of didn't expect it to. So at the end, I went, I think that was really good. And if I had to make a pick, I probably would have made this. But it wasn't like I wasn't thinking about it all that much.
No, I think I almost actually read it on a lark. Because I didn't know it was a Rick book, like you said. So I was like, putting my weekly list together, and there's a Daniel Warren Johnson book out.
Yep.
G.I. Joe, and there's all kinds of things, big releases, World's Finest and Helen of Wyndhorn. I was like, what is this? And I looked at it, and then I was like, maybe. I got a lot of books this week. And then I just said, you know what, fuck it. I didn't know it was Remender when I started reading it.
And all I knew was it said, I look at all the image number. I look at all the number ones that come out from most of the publishers. And, it was like there's a murder mystery, and it didn't say anything about demons because they all say some shit about demons or monsters or whatever. And I thought, okay, I'll just throw that on a list. And if I don't have time, I'll get to it or whatever. Yeah. And I was really impressed and surprised. And so by the end, I was like, I absolutely want to know what happens next. Even the title is well done.
The world is interesting. So he became this sort of Tony Stark-esque hero. It's all based on science, it seems like. I don't think there was any superpowers. But, like one of the guys in the group stayed on as his like assistant. So he has enhancements on his body. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. The guy with spina bifida, in a flashback, we see him walking the red carpet with these metal legs that we see, in the first page of the book. So this is a world where his tech has brought, sort of enhancements to people. Like it's an interesting sort of sci-fi superhero world. And there's a lot of great devices where like they're at the funeral and the camera's real tight on this group of 4 people in the Tin Can Society until we pull out on a page and see there's like 10,000 people in the perimeter of this thing. It was like a lot of nice reveals, like someone who's really
a lot of information
on revealing information in a impactful way wrote this book.
And economically, because it's not super long, but we know a lot more at the end than we did at the beginning. And so, you sent out the email and I went, I must have been right. I must have been right that was good, because you also really no, it was, sometimes when you read a new thing, you think, that's pretty good. And you're not sure though, and then you come in and I was like, all right, I think we're definitely onto something.
I'm excited. And 9 issues seems like a good number. Mm-hmm. 5 would be too few. 24 might be too many, but 9 feels like a good number.
And I have to assume, given the names associated with the creation of this, the pacing will be correct. It'll be what has to be in there.
We've had some really terrific first issues this year. I think about that Boom book about the town that disappears was one of the best first issues. I don't think that the story held the promise of the first issue because it was too short. I think it was like 4 issues or 5. So 9 feels good. So we'll see how that goes.
It's in their hands now.
So I have to admit, pivoting from all of that great stuff we just said, I also kind of really made a case in my head for G.I. Joe Real American Hero 310. Larry Hama and team. This is Paul Pelletier on the art. Several things occurred to me while reading this issue. One is, so we started 9 issues ago with this run, right? 301 was the first Image Comics issue. Mm-hmm. And we've basically been going the same story the whole time, right? It's been Serpentor and Cobra Commander fighting over control of Cobra.
Serpentor Khan.
Serpentor Khan, you're right, that's important.
Yes.
Serpentor Khan and Cobra Commander fighting over for control of Cobra, G.I. Joe caught in the middle. And that's basically been the entire 9 issues we've been doing here. And so I was reading this, I was like, guys, I'm exhausted. We might need to wrap this up just because I need a breather, because they keep raising the stakes with every issue, including this one, where at some point in the middle, Dr. Mindbender's like, I think we could clone the original Serpentor and bring him in to stop Serpentor Khan. And I went, yes! But also, I'm so exhausted. And then the last page is the reveal is Destro and his Mars Corporation. They're going to join the battle. And I'm just like, there's a lot going on here, guys. Please save me.
I did not know that Serpentor Khan was an iteration of Serpentor. I thought that just the is it Genghis Khan, I'm guessing.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Serpentor is a conglomerate made of DNA
Napoleon,
from the great world
Caesar,
leaders.
Genghis Khan, and Storm Shadow.
And I thought, is that true? Storm Shadow?
It wasn't his body, right? But it was Storm Shadow's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
He's in the mix.
Frankenstein's monsters of history's greatest despots. And
Storm Shadow.
I just thought that Genghis Khan had just subsumed the rest of it because he was the most,
all right, so
accomplished
here's the list.
leader.
Julius Caesar, Napoleon, Attila the Hun, Philip II, Alexander the Great, Ivan the Terrible, Vlad the Impaler, who was Dracula, Hannibal, Genghis Khan, Rasputin, Montezuma, Geronimo, and this says Sergeant Slaughter, which I don't understand what that means. I don't know. The internet is a wild.
So he had some showmanship.
So yeah, we missed however he became Serpentor Khan. But the point is, now they're thinking of adding a second Serpentor to the mix. And there's also zombies, and there's robots, and there's ninjas, and there's Cobra. There's so much been going on for 9 issues. I need a breather issue, guys. Wrap this up.
Did you think it was odd that the Joes agreed that resurrecting Serpentor would be the best way to come on, guys.
I was just so happy. And there's also 2 Cobra Commanders. So there's a Crimson Guardman dressed up as Cobra Commander in the field, and he's actually competent.
But he's also a little shirty. He's like, I'm doing my best here, buddy.
But what I find fascinating is that Cobra Commander still uses the ad hoc disguise from like issue 45.
Right.
The mustache. So there was the unmasked issue where the cover promised the unmasking of Deathstroke, Cobra Commander, and Snake Eyes, and it all kind of happened. We never saw their faces, which is the best 80s comic trope of all time. And he put on like round glasses, a fake long mustache, and a beret, and a ponytail wig. And that was like the thing he found in like the costume shop. But he's wearing that here. Has he been wearing that for 300 issues? I guess.
Yeah. I'm thinking.
Here's the other thing I thought. Much like in the 90s when we read all those Star Wars novels, you can't think about how old these characters should be.
No, don't do that.
Because they should all be 75.
No, don't do that.
They all fought in Vietnam.
When you see a Vietnam veteran sticker on a car, that's how old the youngest of these people are.
Right. So I love this book. I really do. And none of these are complaints. I'm saying it's such a breathless, raise the stakes. You don't think the stakes can go any further? Well, here's a second Serpentor, and here comes Mars. It's stakes raising at its finest. At some point, I'm going to have a stroke from the blood pressure from the stake raising.
What I think is kind of the most impressive about it is that it doesn't read like the writing of an old man who's bored of doing this.
Right.
And I'm not saying that I've ever heard that about Larry Hama or ever, but
well, he did say he can't financially stop doing it. Whether or not he still likes it, he hasn't said. Right. But he physically can't.
And be that as it may, it is not that whatever. If there is any negative feelings toward this, it is not showing in the work. The work is as energetic and excitable. And, like when, writing, just somebody's writing it in, which is ironic in this context, but It doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like the person who just got the job and wants to throw everything they can at it.
Sure. I only got this one chance. I'm going to put everything I ever wanted to do in G.I. Joe.
And that's what every issue of this reads like. All of the people after Larry Hama who got a chance to write this book, they all say, that's it, man. I'm putting everything in this book. And nobody's come close. And these are friends of mine. Nobody has come close to doing what Larry Hama is still doing on a monthly basis. It's amazing. Crazy.
I still think Snake Eyes talks too much.
Well, anything he says is too much. So it's not a hard line.
I get it. He was cloned back and his body was never damaged in Vietnam. But I think much like Cassandra Cain, who also talks too much, he shouldn't say more than 2 to 3 words per sentence. But not for any reason other than my own psyche.
I'm not writing this. He shouldn't talk at all because the trauma that he underwent wasn't just physical.
Right.
So therefore, having the ability...
He took that exhaust to the face.
He should speak like it should be very difficult for him to speak. Cassandra Cain, if I was to make an argument for her speaking, it is that she had been traumatized, and now as she is getting healthier, she's able to voice herself and exist in the world like a normal human, and that she deserves that and enjoys it. I see your point, but there is a reason that one works better for me than this one.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, anytime he talks a lot, I'm like, it feels weird.
It feels very weird.
It feels very weird.
Very, very weird. I agree with that.
But I love this issue.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So, all the way in New Hampshire, you may have heard me scream when I read Batman Superman World's Finest 31 this week.
I'm thinking real hard about what it is you might be referring to.
This is the first issue now that Dan Mora has left us. He's drawing Absolute Power. He's left World's Finest to go do Superman. Fine, great, good for him. And Adrian Gutierrez, I don't know if he's the new artist going forward. He's the artist in the book.
Oh, yeah, I know when you screamed.
And so I'm reading the book, and I'm going back and forth on the art. I do like it.
I think it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's maybe one notch too cartoony, but I'm enjoying it.
I like it. It makes me feel it's a little fresh. It's interesting. I like it.
And then get to the last page, and it's revealed that it's a start of a Justice League, Justice Society crossover. And of course, I don't get to see Dan Mora do that. It's my favorite thing in the world. And I got to that page where you see the classic Justice Society. Everyone's in their classic outfits. No bullshit. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, couldn't get Dan Mora for one more goddamn arc that featured the Justice Society. I screamed into the heavens. It's not even a knock on the book. It's just, it is what it is. It's one of my favorite things in all of comics. And
okay, but
Adrian Gutierrez is fine. I like him.
No, look at that Wildcat. That is a fantastic Wildcat.
No,
then
it's not bad.
Move across the way. Look at Alan Scott's pants.
They're good pants.
Like, whenever you talk about Gary Frank, is that he can draw clothing and fabric and stuff. Yeah. And I'm looking over here, and that's what you got to do when you're drawing the Justice Society. You can't have all the tight shit.
No.
And he's nailing it right here. And everybody has gigantic, not trapezius. What's the ones behind your neck? What are those muscles? I don't know because I don't have them. There you go. They have massive lats. Lateris dorsimus.
They never skip latte.
They don't. And I never skip latte.
So, I mean, look, the art is good. It's just, it's a transitional period out of like my favorite artist in comics to a new person. Doesn't matter who the new person is.
I didn't think I knew that he was your favorite artist in comics.
And currently working.
I like him.
Like all my other favorite artists are past. Darwin's gone. Norm's gone. Adam Hughes.
I don't think we ever talk about you in terms of your favorite artist.
We'd have to think about that. Might be a good hangout conversation.
Yeah. I was going to say, though, like, I don't know that I could have picked one out for you who wasn't like an old dead person.
Anyone listening, that's a great 950 question in email form.
So you're going to say, it'd be real nice if one of you asked this. We can start seeding these.
Who are your top 5 current artists in comics is interesting. I'd have to really think about that. But, I liked this issue a lot. It's a pure Justice League story. I like how Mark Waid plays fast and loose with the idea of world's finest. It's not always just Batman, Superman, and Robin. He often brings in the whole universe.
What we just said about Larry Hama equally applies to Mark Waid on this book.
And this is Satellite era Justice League. They're all in the Satellite era outfits.
I like the Satellite.
It's Superman, Green Arrow, Black Canary, Hal Jordan, Red Tornado, The Atom, Elongated Man, The Flash, Batman, Robin, and Zatanna makes an appearance. Or was that another book? I think she made it was another book. There's a lot of books this week. I like Eclipso. He's a great villain. I'm never quite 100% sure about what he does in his powers, and I've been reading comics featuring him for 40 years.
Yeah.
Zatanna's not in this book. That was a different book this week. I just thought it was a fun story. Eclipso ends up taking over or possessing half the Justice League, and so they got a problem, so that's why they're calling the Justice Society. So it was a great setup issue.
That happens on like page 2. Like it just kicks off.
The art's very exciting. It moves.
Page 3.
It's got a very kinetic feel to it. All the men have sort of curly hair, but that's fine. I thought it was fun. I just had to get over the trauma of not seeing a Dan Mora drawn Justice Society, Justice League crossover. That's fine.
Like, I think you got to find substitute.
It's going to take me one issue to get over it, and then I'll be fine.
All right.
So I had another thought reading the Avengers 784 or 18 is that this issue was very much emblematic of modern comics. Not necessarily good or bad. It just is what it is.
Go on.
Last issue, we had the big cliffhanger that fake Superman, what's his name? Hyperion is headed like a bullet from the outer reaches of the galaxy, headed right for Earth. He's going to hit it like a bullet and destroy the Earth. And that was the big cliffhanger. Very exciting. And so this almost entire issue was everyone talking about it. And then they wrap it up in 2 pages. Mm-hmm. There was not a lot of action. They didn't have to fight him. In the 80s, this would have been a whole big battle in space between everybody. Here, they all sort of broke off into little huddles, little side groups. They all had conversations about it, what they were going to do, the dangers of it. The X-Men get brought in. And then it's like, they try to make this like vibranium shield, but doesn't work. And then they sort of just open a portal. He goes through it to another multiverse where he is needed and has a purpose. And that's how they subdue him. It was like 3 pages of subduing him after 17 pages of talking about it. That's just kind of modern comics.
I don't think that I understood it that you're 100% right. It's excellent spot, excellent way of contextualizing this. My reaction was that you put it on the list and I was like, I don't remember anything about it. I did, like, when I started it, I immediately remembered. I was all right, Hyperion's come, that's cool, but everything else didn't stick with me, and that is because, as you pointed out, nothing else happened.
It wasn't bad. Like, the conversations were interesting and well written. All of these writers who want to be writing indie films write great characters and great conversations, but at the end of the day, I finished, I was like, oh, so that was it? Like, we're done with Hyperion?
The solution was very
smart.
It was very Stan Lee-ian.
Yeah.
In that, like, it wasn't specifically what you want. It wasn't a revenge thing. It was, how do we get the most good out of this for the character that Josh just doesn't care about no matter what you do. Conor can't remember his name. There's no reason for Hyperion. Superman. You should have done this with... Well, I mean, it's a crap character if the problem is that he's going to destroy the whole Earth because nobody remembers him anymore. That's stupid.
Should have been the Sentry.
I was about to say that. It would have been like, we shat on the Sentry for a long time, but I think maybe the time has come to do a good story with the Sentry. There have been some. I mean, other than that one with his corpse, which was the best story ever. That was
I'm not saying it was a bad comic at all. I'm just saying this is very much like Exhibit A, and I already used that metaphor earlier. This is a modern comic. They're going to sit around and talk about the thing, and then they'll wrap the thing up very quickly.
I just feel like if you had this like in a graph and it was like this bar is this much of the story and this bar is this much of the story, if you slid the bars to make the confrontation, the superhero fight, a bigger part of it, and all the chit chat, what are we going to do, blah, 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 a smaller part of it, or give it another issue and sort of weave those in, I think you've been better off. But ultimately, it was a really cool start to a story and then a kind of a resolution.
The big news here is that Storm has replaced Thor, who has left the building.
Yeah, I don't care.
Not 2 lightning generating people on the team, just 1.
Well, I mean, that would just be...
It's in the Avengers bylaws. You can't have more than 1 lightning person. You got to go.
Why are they standing in the same world as Blade Runner on the last page? Why is that?
That's what New York looks like now. How long have you been gone?
I mean...
Blade Runner.
13 years, Conor.
So there you go. It's all like a lot of rain, a lot of neon.
Let me ask you this. How's the street noodle situation?
It's better. That's like the only thing that's the benefit. Everything else, there's a lot of robots running around.
How's the street noodle random origami situation?
Just random origami everywhere. Stumbling on unicorns and horses.
Adama?
So I actually also thought about Wonder Woman 13 as pick of the week. Tom King, Tony Daniel, in Absolute Power tie-in in which Wonder Woman and Damian Wayne, I guess we call him Robin, team up to help. This seems like a big moment in the story. Rescue all the heroes that are in jail. And they do that. They get them all out, which seems like a big one. Should have happened in the main book, but...
Yeah, they got in the main book, you got Superman with his invisible doorways and stuff, but no. I'm going to say this right away. This is the best Tony Daniel art I've maybe ever seen.
It's very good.
I really like how they produced it. It's much looser. The coloring really suits it. A lot of good people acting here. Really funny stuff with very affectionate Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman.
Well, I did like, that was the running joke of the whole issue, is that every chance they get, Steve and Wonder Woman are making out. And it's really grossing out Damian because he's either 13 or 18, depending on who's doing the book.
I don't think it has to do with his immaturity as much as there's a job that has to be done.
Right.
And they're slowing him down.
It's just funny. Every time he would turn around, he'd say something very dark and meaningful. And he'd turn around, they're making out. And he's just like, come on. But I thought it was really fun in that sense. Like, it was a good kind of a heist issue because they've got to break into the thing and save the people. But it had Tom's, I don't want to say twisted sense of humor, but unique sense of humor that ran through the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a very good single issue, I thought.
He really likes writing Damian. And it was, in the back of this, there was that backup story with Wonder Woman's kid and John. And I really enjoyed that, actually. I don't know if it's over. I don't think it is.
This was the issue that Zatanna showed up in.
We haven't really talked about Wonder Woman very much.
We have.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I'd say at least a third of the issues have come out.
All right.
It's been a while because the last couple have all been tie-ins to Absolute Power.
I find it very strange. To me, I just assumed that he was going to do a 12-issue arc.
I thought too.
So when they busted him with this at issue 11 or whatever, I was like, what's this?
I think we just assume at this point that everything he does is out of continuity and it's in an own bubble, but apparently not.
Fair enough. His issues of Absolute Power have been good. So,
Yes, and it was also a nice little nod to his other story. He had a scene with Ice in it.
Yeah.
Not at all related to it, but just nice to see her pop up in his story again. I thought it was a very good issue. Really, really good. If those other comics have not come out, it was probably in there. For a minute, I was like, could it be Wonder Woman? Could be Wonder Woman.
Speaking of Tom King, over at Dark Horse, we had the 4th and penultimate issue, I think, of Helen of Wyndhorn.
I do want to point out that this came out physical form like 2 weeks ago.
Really?
The digital releases have been screwed up for a while.
I went and checked specifically that it was on their website as a new release this week.
Right, but it was also on Diamond's new release list 2 weeks ago, and people got it in paper form.
Yeah. Well, if you read it, here we go.
The digital side is screwed across multiple companies. I don't know why. Anyway, this was good.
Yeah, I mean, this is only a 5-issue miniseries, and a lot was packed into this one. This was like, the hero's journey. Got to be an amazing warrior, basically Batman. Like, hang on to this tree overnight. We'll see you in the morning. And it makes her shed all of her Helen, I'm talking about. If her name wasn't in the title, I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
Well, what's even funnier is I didn't know it. Her name is in the title. I was like, I don't know what her name is. Yeah. I'm looking at the title.
I'm assuming she's Helen because I know they're at Wyndhorn, and she just becomes all that she can be, and she adventures off in the questing lands with her really emotionally repressed grandfather.
Right. This is the training issue.
Yeah.
She spends the first half of the book in intense year-long, physically punishing training, combat training, physical fitness training, and totally neglecting her French studies. By the way, she's not going to get that Regent's diploma.
Whatever. She speaks Orcish now, so... A lot is accomplished in these pages. I will tell you, by the way, I don't really care about the framing device of whatever's happening.
Oh, really?
Now.
I find it interesting.
It's interesting. It's fine. But if you took it out, I wouldn't miss it.
No.
I don't not like it.
Are we sure this is one more issue? Because you know how we are in the show. You know how we do it.
Well, first of all, anybody listening should know that when I say that, you take that with a beach full of salt.
I'm only saying that because, if anything, I would say there's not enough time spent with it. So it can't be satisfying when we only get a page here, a page there from the present day. I would find it more interesting if I knew there would be more explored to it. Otherwise, you're right.
Almost
they could just
certain
cut it.
number 5 is... I'm sorry. 5 is the penultimate issue.
Oh, it's
4
6.
is this issue.
I like that we keep traditions alive on the show.
By the way, according to Dark Horse, 5 is out next week.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. This came out technically 2 or 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It's all screwy.
That's why I thought it was a penultimate, because anyway, I read it, and then I got all screwed. I was like, maybe I read this on the wrong week. Nah. It's good.
You know what
really
helps? It helps when they put it on the cover. Like the tin can, I was going to say army, but that's Society. It says 1 of 9 on the cover.
It is helpful.
And the next book we're going to talk about says 1 of 4 on the cover. Just let us know. Mm-hmm. Did you read The Masked Macher?
Macher. Nope. Yes, I did. I was going to, because they put the definition of Macher on the cover, which I thought was a nice touch. Because a lot of people don't have functional Yiddish anymore, it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, most people wouldn't know that word.
I wouldn't have known it. I mean, I would have maybe figured it out, but I wouldn't have known it immediately until they put that as, Macher, got it.
I knew it just from growing up in New York.
Sure.
I took a flyer of this as well. This is from Dark Horse. This is the 1 of 4. And it's a story set in old Hollywood, written by David A. Goodman, Alex Andre on art, Andres. And it's about an overconfident actor.
Yep.
Who, because he's broke, takes on a wrestling job as the Masked Macher. And I thought it was fun. I didn't love it, and I thought the art wasn't great. But then it got to the final page reveal, and I thought, well, that's either crazy or stupid. I want to know more.
Uh-huh.
Because up until that reveal, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep reading this. It's not great, and the art's not great, but it's got something. And then the last page reveal, I was like, whoa, all right, that's fucking strange. So I'm going to keep going.
And I don't want to give this away, and I'm not going to, but here's what you need to know. The bear has reading glasses. Anyway, yeah, I kind of was like that too. I was like, I kind of liked that it was very much not like a lot of the other books. A low status, thinking he's high status buffoon.
Right.
It was very one-dimensional, like an annoying character to spend time with.
Yes.
But he stumbles into this situation where they need somebody to be the Masked Macher because they have a wrestling promotions or they're all going to go broke, and a couple of interesting characters are in there. And I got to give them credit for, let's do a comic book about this. And that's enough for me to stick around for another one. It was good.
I didn't buy his curly Q mustache. No one really had that in the 30s. They had little pencil thin mustaches. But the curly Q bit, I've never seen anyone with that in an old movie.
Well, he was unself-aware. Maybe that's one of the reasons. He's like Tobias Funke.
I did like, there's a Humphrey Bogart cameo.
Yep.
All the actors they mention are real. The movies they mention are real. It had a bit of a spark to it. It had a bit of a flair, which I thought was fun. They pay him $5 to wrestle, and they show the arena. It's probably like 25 people in there, and they all paid $0.25. I was like, well, you're never going to make your money back. This is a bad business model. But then they revealed it later that he really should have only been paid $0.25. It's like, okay, that makes more sense. But I thought it was just fun, even though I thought the art was not quite professional. But it's not terrible, but it wasn't professional. Anyway, I had fun reading it, though.
Feel like we have to close the book on the Star Wars books.
This book is never closing.
We talked about Star Wars number 50 last week, and this week is the 50th and final issue of this volume of Darth Vader, Star Wars Darth Vader. It's been written by Greg Pak for quite a while. This has seen great runs from Kieran Gillen and from Charles Soule and Greg Pak. I think those are the only 3 main writers on it. I'm not sure. We had sort of a 4-part single issue where they wrapped up a lot of the everything that was going on in this series so far. So art was the first part. Raphael Ianco, Paul Fry, Luke Ross, Adam Gorham, different colors across all those, and Joey C doing the letters. And this Darth Vader has, from step one, been a stronger book than the main Star Wars book.
You love this book.
Yeah, it's really good because it's got more of a focus, for one thing. And it really is, it doesn't tell you a lot about Darth Vader, but it makes you think about him a lot. Because we do know that story that in there was a good kid, and then it's this rageful, power hungry. Like, the thing is that I don't think we understand Darth Vader, and I don't think he does either. but he's that force of nature. And you kind of like you're trying to understand it, but ultimately you can't. But there's a couple of touches because you also know that Luke said there's still good in you. And then they followed through with that. So there has to be. And so at this point, he's at his most powerful. He's his most evil. He's still trying to hunt down Luke. They haven't had their Bespin encounter. So this is before that.
This is before Empire?
Yeah.
I thought these volumes were before Jedi.
No, they haven't met. They haven't done. He doesn't know. No one knows.
That's weird. It's weird that the two books are in different time periods totally.
Whatever. They're not related. They didn't cross over at all.
But didn't they meet in the comics, which is one of the reasons why I stopped reading? Early on, they had a confrontation between Luke and Vader, and I was like, nope.
I don't remember. I know that they almost did a couple times. Like they were in the same area for this one. And basically, Vader saves Luke in this one. But the idea really is that he still wants to turn him at this point. So it's not like he's having fatherly love, but maybe he is. I don't know. He saves Kitster and Wald. He lets Sabe live. Nah, I mean,
was this the one with Sabe?
Yeah.
It was not Star Wars. It was Darth Vader.
I thought all that stuff actually was done really well. I mean, like, if you're going to pull these characters, it wasn't like a cutesy, like, nod wink. There was a bunch of characters, supporting characters who were sort of made up to be in this who were really interesting.
Right.
And, you know, the sort of interplay between Palpatine is always fucking with Vader. Mm-hmm. Basically, in this, they lit a whole thing, and now he's going to take him on, and he thinks he's got this team of people, and Palpatine's like, "No, I did all of it. Go ahead, take me on now." And he beats him, and
the worst boss.
You're my master. You know, like Darth Vader. It's very sad and hateful. It's been really good for me this whole time, and it was a very good sort of wrap up all the things. Greg Pak, a veteran, and I think a really, really good run.
Is this getting another volume?
I imagine.
Did it say anything at the end?
I don't know.
Any like coming soon?
Dude, I had a lot of comics to read. I got to the last page. I moved on.
And the Star Wars one, it's coming soon. The Battle of Jakku.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably in this or something. All right. How does the Marvel app work to go all the way to the end? I got to hit the little page thing up in the right corner. Yeah, coming this fall. No, this just says Star Wars. It doesn't say anything about Darth Vader. And those are all Phil Noto covers, which is the Star Wars book. So we don't know. I mean, the thing is, with Darth Vader, you do have an end of that runway.
Sure.
So you can't go on forever.
You can't go past Jedi unless there's a whole miniseries about how his helmet was rescued from the fire.
My favorite thing is the sound of his helmet being popped off.
Oh, that's a good sound.
Yeah. An Empire.
Good sound. That blew my mind as a kid, seeing the back of his head.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's fucked up.
Calling all iFanboy members in the sound of my voice. Everyone in the iFan base.
Attention, iFanboy members.
It's time for another audience survey. Yes, that's right. We're conducting an audience survey at gum.fm/ifanboy. We want to hear from you so we can keep making the shows you love, or at least somewhat enjoy while you're mowing the lawn or doing your dishes. And you're not crazy. We just did an audience survey. That's right. It was not too long ago, maybe 2 months or 3 months. I don't remember. That survey, that was for us, the two guys talking to you now. This new survey, that's for our distributor, the people that put our show out into the world. Why? Because we both sell ads. We sell ads ourselves. They sell ads for us. We both need information to do that. We want to improve the advertising experience. And in order to do that, the distributor needs to know a little bit more about you, our audience. So, like you helped us out, please help them out. The survey is quick. It's easy. It's a free way to support the show. And guess what? Even better, the survey itself is short. It's shorter than the last one you took. It'll take you 2 minutes tops, and you'll be done. It'll help us out. We thank you so much. Go to gum.fm/ifanboy to fill out the audience survey. That's gum.fm/ifanboy. Thank you. You can also support the show in the usual following places: patreon.com/ifanboy, ifanboy.threadless.com, ifanboy.com/support, ifanboy.com/Amazon, and the bookshop.org links. Those are all the ways you can help support us. But right now, and for the next couple of weeks, please help us out by going to gum.fm/ifanboy so our distributor can sell more appropriate ads for this community. So thank you very much.
Do you know that I love doing internet surveys?
I should do this one.
Like when people, I don't know if that'd be helpful, but I guess I am the target audience in some weird way. But like when a company that I have bought something, or like they send me a survey, if I have time, I'll always fill it out. Right. Love them. I get political polls now from local universities. Love them. All of them. I'll do them all. What do you want? Don't put me on any list, you sons of bitches listening.
I like phone polls.
Oh, no, I won't do that.
Let's move on now to the Patron Pick. Patreon.com/iFanboy is where you can go to support the show, like we just said. And if you are a patron of the show, you get to vote to add a book to the rundown. Every patron gets a book. Not a book. They get a vote. Man, if they all got a book, we'd be screwed.
If that was true, we'd be rolling in it.
No, I'm saying every patron could add a book to the rundown.
Oh.
The show would be 4 months long.
I mean, just the reading alone.
Right. The winner this week is The Moon is Following Us, #1. It's from the Jerry Duggan School of Has Anyone Seen My Keys? Story by Daniel Warren Johnson. Art by Riley Rossmo and Daniel Warren Johnson, which was a surprise to me because I don't read. And colors by Mike Spicer and letters by Sean Lee.
That's really funny because I didn't read that until you said it. And when I was reading, I was like, this looks a lot like Daniel Warren Johnson. Wow, Riley Rossmo's really a good fit.
So the credits page says, Daniel Warren Johnson, creator, writer, artist. And I somehow didn't read the artist part. Riley Rossmo, creator, artist. Daniel Warren Johnson draws the real world part, and Riley Rossmo draws the fantastical part, which we'll get to in a second. But I didn't know that. So when it got to the page, I went, oh, that looks a lot like Daniel Warren Johnson. And then I was like, that is Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah.
So this issue opens with a bang with a husband and wife team in some sort of fantasy sci-fi world with a frog with a crown and a sniper rifle helping them as they attempt to rescue. Does it say their kid?
It's their kid. It is. It's their daughter.
Named Penny from the castle.
I'm sorry. I don't want to gloss over this, right? Because you said a frog with a crown and a sniper rifle, but I think this needs more.
And a cigarette.
This is a frog with a cigarette, an eye patch, a sniper rifle, a kerchief, and that crown. That is a paper-made crown with a piece of tape holding it together.
You're right.
And then one of those rucksacks with the blanket rolled up on top. There's a lot going on with that frog, and I needed to know that it's appreciated.
It's great. And so they're trying to invade this castle, very fantasy element. There's like dragons and shit flying around.
Blunderbuss toting robots or demons or whatever.
And then there's like a wizard who shows up to help them. There's like a bat creature who, when he opens his wings, he's got every weapon known to man in there. And like, this is like a kind of fun sci-fi story. I'm digging it. And then the reveal here is that the husband and wife seem to be in a VR scenario that lets them go into their daughter's dreams. I think that's what it was. And she is in her bed attached to some machine, some crazy machine, like sci-fi machine. And they're trying to wake her up. She's been asleep for 6 months. And so they go into this simulation and with their VR stuff, which looks like the Rebel helmets from Star Wars, to save her. But they haven't done it yet. So that's what I think happened.
The wife gets really screwed up in the fight, and they're like, you got to get out now because, like whatever, if the injury in the simulation will do something to them in real life.
Yeah, she gets an arrow in the back.
She's actually wounded. Yeah, they are, because he looks at her back.
Right.
And she's in sexy underwear, so that's important.
I liked this. I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that Daniel Warren Johnson had a new book out. I knew he wasn't drawing it. That was partially a lie.
I mean, it was a mistake.
Well, it was my own lie. I lied to myself.
Right. Well, listen, if you see three or four lines of comic books, you know that, okay, well, that first one's the writer, and then you look at it as Daniel Warren Johnson. The first word you see is writer. Doesn't matter what happens after that because it's the second line and this is a name and an artist. They're trying to hide it.
And this is great Riley Rossmo.
He's always great.
I know, but I'm saying I think this kind of story where these fantastical creatures and crazy weapons and a frog with a cigarette, an eye patch, a cravat, and a crown and a sniper, like this is up his alley. This is like right in his wheelhouse. All the words.
The dot pitch, all of it.
I thought this looked great. I thought the story was intriguing. We don't really know much, but it was fun. It was action-packed in that way that Daniel Warren Johnson writes stories. He seems very enthusiastic in the essay in the back that I only read half of.
The second half of it is mostly him talking about the Rossmo art.
Yeah, which is great. Looks great.
That's how much I like this creator. I read the essay.
I was thrilled to see the Johnson art at the end, but I was not at all sad that it was Riley Rossmo in the beginning.
Right.
It looked very good.
It's one of those things where, whoever's putting stuff together, same thing as on the Transformers book is, like, well, who are you going to get to replace him with? Jorge Corona was a great choice. Who are you going to get to work with him here? Riley Rossmo is a great choice.
Right.
They're not doing him, but they're of a type. It's the same thing Scotty Young does.
Same school.
Yeah. I mean, like the guys who do I Hate Fairyland.
Right.
You could almost have me believe that's Scotty Young. It isn't. It doesn't look, but it's of a type and it fits. So that's what they're doing here. I liked this. I didn't love it. I wasn't immediately hooked. I did want to know more. And I'm not saying he should have put in more, but I'm saying I want to know more about how this works. It's very conceptually, there's a Neil Stephenson-y kind of thing going on here.
It's very much a cold open. Like some books are cold opens, like the Tin Can Society. I almost said the Tin Pan Alley. I've lost the thread of that title, but the Tin Can Society was not a cold open. It was a meaty first chapter that gave us a lot of information. This was a cold open. We don't know a lot yet.
I think the thing that I'm getting at as I think about it, is that I actually don't really know anything about the characters other than their desperate parents. And so, whereas, if we're talking about the Tin Can Society, which was better to me, I mean, you just pick of the week. So obviously, you got to know the people. And when for me, when I get to know characters, that will hook me a lot more than a plot or even art, because you know what the stakes are for those people. And I just don't know that yet.
Yeah, totally.
They could get there.
Everything you're saying, I agree with. I liked this quite a bit. Didn't love it. Obviously, it wasn't pick of the week, but certainly wasn't bad. I did want to know more.
So obviously, since you agree with everything, you know that what I was leaning to is eugenics. And
obviously.
When you...
Wait, whoa. Break color.
You agreed.
I'm looking forward to more. I don't know what to say. It was a fun, action-packed, slam-bang open. It was a classic structure, right? It's like we were thrown in the middle of an action sequence. We follow that action sequence to its completion, and then we find out that everything we've been seeing is not what we thought it was. That's the hook, or that's the cliffhanger.
I will say, I guess we kind of get, but the wife gets severely injured, and I thought, I don't want to watch just a single sad dad try to save his. And so the fact that they got out of it and they can be a team together is much more interesting to me. And so I'm glad that happened.
So ratings on the what is it called? Which one? The Moon is Following Us. Number one.
Good title. Oh, we can't remember it, but it's a good title.
There's just a lot of titles. That's all. Yeah. It's not its fault.
It's also it's not like a couple of words that pop. It's a sentence, and it's a weird sentence that doesn't make sense.
I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
3.9.
Ooh.
I want to say 4, but I feel like I'm left wanting a little bit. I didn't love it. I wanted to love it, but it's not time to love it yet. It may be time later.
And sticking with it? Yes.
Wait a minute. You forgot.
No, I was getting to that.
Oh, is that the last question now?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the order. What's the best order?
I don't know.
You're right. I think, were you reading this anyway before the vote is the second question.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No question.
And sticking with it's the final question.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. All right. Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where you can become a patron and vote to add a book to the rundown. We thank everyone who votes every week. You add a wonderful element to the show. But if you're a patron at the $5 or higher level, you get your own superpower live on the show, like Trent Himes. I don't think I did this one. I've had it written down for a while. Did I do this one? If I did, I apologize. Trent Himes' power is that he can conjure up magically any nostalgic item, meaning he can't conjure up anything. He can't just, Josh, give you a Porsche 911 because you never had one. But
that I know of.
He could conjure up your childhood teddy bear, or if you said to Trent, hey, I want a ticket stub from every movie I've ever been to, snaps his fingers, on your coffee table is now a pile of ticket stubs from every movie you've ever seen in theaters.
Is this limitless?
Well, it's got to be a nostalgic item for whoever's...
I get it, but you could sit there and be like, and I want my Legos back.
Well, yeah. Eventually Trent gets annoyed and leaves.
Right.
But yeah, it's limitless.
It doesn't take anything out of him. It's
no.
Mad. Okay.
Like, I can't do this all day, man. I got a job.
Right.
But that's what Trent can do. He can conjure up any nostalgic item for himself or for anyone who he wants to turn his power towards.
So I'm going to ask you, what's the first thing you would tell him? Really think about it.
No, I have. That's why the power came from it. It was the movie ticket thing. I was...
Really?
I have a big glass container here with almost every movie I've seen while I've been living in LA. And I thought, man, I would just love it if I had every movie ticket of every movie I've ever been to.
It's a very you answer. I thought I have a good answer. I had so many phases where I liked things, And so that would have to do with it. It's funny because if I didn't, I would say honestly, my first answer would really be my first comics, but I still have them all.
Right.
You know what I mean? That would be my first, I want the comics that I originally, I will never get rid of those because I know.
Well, you could tell Trent is you could say the very first comic I ever read, because you may not even remember what that was.
Oh, but Trent, you can do that?
The Magic of the Universe will say this was the first comic Josh ever read. Boom, here it is.
My second instinct is Star Wars toys, is my Millennium Falcon in the figures. Right. That's my instinct. But I feel like ultimately that would be disappointing.
I would have, in addition to movie stubs, I would have him bring back my high school Letterman jacket that I gave to a girl when I was 16. Then we broke up. And then years later, her mom threw it out.
You actually had a Letterman jacket? They did that in New York City?
Yeah. And that's the thing is my school stopped doing them. And so we were amongst the last group of people that had them.
Let me ask you this.
I really wish I'd had it because I would have given it to my sister because she also played soccer, and I would have given her the jacket and she would have been cool because no one else had one.
What is lettering? Not the other kind. What do you do to get, is it because you're on the varsity team?
Yes.
Okay, so that's lettering.
Yes.
What is that?
I don't know. Someone in fucking Ohio thought it up. I don't know.
Okay.
We had the jackets, though. I had my soccer Letterman's jacket, and I really wish I could have given it to my sister when she played soccer for the.
When you say Letterman jacket,
yeah,
I immediately picture a young Ted McGinley.
Kinda.
Is that?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
not
fair,
wrong.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a joke. I really did think that.
I'm not even saying that's wrong. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Thanks for being a patron. Trent, we appreciate you. I don't know how long the show is because we got screwed up when we started. Then we went long in the beginning. I don't know if I'm going to leave that stuff in or not.
I think you have time for one.
I think we can do one. Let's do Brandon Y from Ohio. That seems the most emotionally pressing. Brandon's question says, or his email says, I've been thinking about this question for about 2.3 minutes. Oh, God, Brandon, that's not even worth our time.
No. What I like, though, is that he finished the book. He sat there for just under 2.5 minutes. He goes, I got to write this.
All right, that's fine.
That's how I picture it.
I've been thinking about this question for about 2.3 minutes after finishing She-Hulk 188. Thank you for using the proper numbering. In the farewell note from Rainbow Rowell, it became shockingly apparent to me the series was ending as a result of low sales. I just assumed it was because Rainbow Rowell was getting moved to some new big project or leaving Marvel entirely. The thought that the current run of She-Hulk is ending because it couldn't find an audience is a reality I can't comprehend. She-Hulk has been the Marvel book I look forward to the most at a time. The amount of comics I enjoy and purchase has been plummeting drastically. What does the comics purchasing audience want? She-Hulk had it all. If the comics market can't support this book, what is the point of any of this? You know what? Brandon's just going through it. Whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, welcome.
You're now officially a comic book reader. I don't know how long you've been doing it, but you now are officially one.
That's not actually true. You're a certain kind of comic book reader.
Everyone gets their heart broken at some point.
Sure, but there is a realization that you'll find a book, you're like, oh, this is really good. And because it is a little of an edge case, and this is an edge case, it's a female lead in it, bit of a romance book. You know, you think it's everything you want, but I don't know that that's indicative of what the comic book audience is buying. I still think most of the comic book audience, the people buying, not reading, not enjoying, people buying these are buying.
Oh, no, this is totally an edge case book, and it's always been an edge case book. And we've talked about it in the show that it's been an edge case book. And She-Hulk has always been an edge case series. Look at the numbering.
She's literally a spin-off of a main character.
Right, but look at the numbering. She-Hulk 188, and that goes back to the 80s.
Yeah.
That number should be way higher. That means that she mostly hasn't had a book. Every one of her series, you go back before Rainbow Rowell, you go to Charles Soule, you go to Dan Slott. Those were the fairly recent runs. Those didn't last more than, 5-10 issues?
Something like that.
And look, I feel your pain. Josh and I have talked about this. She-Hulk has been our favorite Marvel book of the last however long this has been going on. 2 years, 3 years? By far, number one book.
It isn't the sort of definition of what people think of as a superhero comic book.
But it's not a big seller.
No.
It's not a Spider-Man book. It just isn't. It's like loving an indie film and wondering why not everyone else in the world isn't buying tickets to go see it.
This is where I live, Brandon.
This is Josh's life.
This is everything. I mean, what was the show on FX that we did? The
Terriers.
This is Terriers. This is Deadwood. This is, any number of a million movies that, they never made anything like again. They stopped altogether making the movies that I liked. This literally happens in my supermarket. I can't tell you how many times they'll put something out and I'll go, oh, that sounds good. And I'll try it. 2 months later, they stop carrying it. Like it happens all, it's just, you have a certain kind of taste. You get your idea like, oh, this is what I like. It's good. And no, not enough other people like it. And it sucks.
Brendan could be a 40-year reader, and he's like, I know all the shit dudes. But I do think it's a valid question to ask, what is the point of the comics market if you have a book like this can't be supported? And you could say traditionally never been supported, but...
That's true. That's true of most entertainment.
Right. I think, the comics market, like all entertainment, is in a weird place now where they got real healthy during the pandemic. And, all entertainment contracted post-pandemic. And who knows, Who knows what can be supported and why. I always looked at She-Hulk as a gift that every time a new issue came out, I was happy. If you go back and listen to the show when Thor the Mighty Avenger got canceled, that was like the last time I really got broken over a cancellation. And I've been reading comics since the early 80s. But that was like the last time I really got my heart like, you know what? This is just what happens now.
We definitely do have there's a Zen approach.
We try, but we're humans. We are not robots. So we fall in love with something and it goes away, we get upset about it. I was sad that S.H.I.E.L.D. got canceled.
Me too, but I also just think that every time I like something and I know it is not Avengers. By the way, if you like something, it's still going to end because the writer's not going to want to do it anymore for the most part. But, because other people aren't supporting it, I just figure if I really like something, people aren't going to support it. That's how I approach it.
Almost every time I've talked about the world's finest book, I've always said, well, I don't know if this is popular. It's probably going to go away. I'm just steeling myself for the moment it does. I'm preparing myself emotionally for it.
I assume that if I like something, people don't. So,
right.
And it's really surprising too. Like, so when we've been saying, well, at least I know I'm reading Amazing Spider-Man and really enjoying it. I think that's a mainstream book. And you go, nobody likes this, Josh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, of course not.
But they're buying it because it's Amazing Spider-Man.
Exactly. When you said the question was, what does the comics purchasing audience want? They want Hershey bars and McDonald's burgers.
In music and movies and TV and food and everything. There's always a mainstream taste. And that's necessarily bad. Like, I like Amazing Spider-Man. But, don't cry because it's over. Laugh because it happened. Like, you got to appreciate the stuff when it comes out. But his other point, which we just veered off from, is, there was a time in the market where Scalped went 60 issues. Or however many it finally went, And that book didn't sell hardly. There was a time when there was more room for these companies to carry lower selling books because of whatever reason. Just like movie studios used to put out lower grossing films.
Yeah. Fox Searchlight.
Because they liked them, or because there was prestige, or because they made a little money, made a little profit.
Made enough.
And now that's not gone too. We're in their era where it has home run or bust.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, like, the economics of comics is such that it's become really expensive to make a comic book, and less people are buying them in issue form.
Unless you want to start paying $9 for a comic.
That threshold, it used to be, it's got to sell at least 20,000. Now it's got to sell at least 10,000, and they can't get 7. Like, there is an economic component to it, which is what you're saying.
Right. The market used to be such that this book maybe could have survived 15 years ago, but maybe not. Like I said, She-Hulk has never really gone. Like, let's see, when did She-Hulk #1 come out? I mean, that was a long time ago.
The Byrne one?
Are they counting the Savage She-Hulk? Because that was 1980.
Okay. I don't know what the official #1 is. I think that was.
The Sensational She-Hulk was 89.
Right, because I was.
So either 80 or 89. Either way, it's a long time. That's 30 years and only getting 188 issues out of it.
Let me glass half full you here, though.
God, I hate the internet. I Google She-Hulk and all I got is She-Hulk Attorney at Law.
I know. That's TV. TV's messed up everything. So the glass half full version of this is at the beginning of this show, and over the past couple of months, we've been talking about how the ratio of superhero books to, non-big 2 books to big 2 books has changed drastically. And so 10 years ago, it was a really good time for independent books. There were so many great things coming. And when I say independent, again, I mean non-Marvel DC.
Yeah.
Then there was a bit of a lull as they sort of lost their way and couldn't figure it out. And lately, been a lot of really good series. That has been the thing that I think has excited Conor and I the most over the past year or so, is there's been a really good spate of good new series. There's actually a lot of them because we didn't even read most of them. They're not super long. Those days feel a little past us. The 50, 60, 70 issue run, that isn't going to happen as much. But 4, 8, 10, 20 issues, you might get that. You'll get a Stillwater. You'll get a, all the books we were Tin Can Society.
Right.
You get, what was the Scott Snyder torture box book?
Oh, but that was designed to be short.
Right, I know, but I'm saying those things exist, and there's many genres and many things to tickle your fancy. And if this is what you want out of a Marvel DC book, you're going to get these blips here and there. That to me is like what great superhero books are now, is that they kind of come in a blip. Every once in a while you'll get, honestly, what Conor said, World's Finest Batman Superman, that to me feels like an edge case blip book. It's going to exist while it is, and we should be happy about it. I don't know if it's selling. It's got Batman and Superman on the cover, so maybe.
I assume anything I really like is going to go away. That's just my assumption.
I think anything not the main continuity is always in danger.
Right. Again, that's also a coping mechanism, guys. I've been doing this for long. I know my coping mechanisms. It's, this thing is you love is going to go away. You better start worrying about it every time.
They had this great carnitas sauce. You put it in the pressure cooker. It was fantastic. Listen, they kept a bunch of them except that one.
I still have in my shopping list app, champagne cheddar at Whole Foods. They haven't stocked that in like 5 years, but every time I go, I look.
Smart Start has disappeared from the world. It was a wonderful cereal. It didn't make me feel like I was a child. It was probably just as bad. But the point is that, you know what? They had chili lime Cholula. Delightful sauce. It's gone.
So here's the publication history of She-Hulk. So you had the Savage She-Hulk #1, which was in 1980. It lasted for 25 issues. It was canceled in 1982. So 2 years of Savage She-Hulk. And then in 89, so 7 years later, they bring her back for the Sensational She-Hulk, the John Byrne series. And that lasted 60 issues and 5 years. So it was canceled in 94.
84 issues. 5 years is a pretty good run.
That was the longest run. It went for 5 years, 60 issues. That was the famous Byrne run. He didn't do the whole thing, but he did a good portion of it. So that ends in 94. No She-Hulk books for 10 years. It comes back in 2004. Was that the Dan Slott book? Yeah, that was the Dan Slott book. That was the big return. That book went 33 total issues. That was canceled, and then it was actually a pretty good run. Then the Charles Soule book was 2014. So almost another
10 years ago?
10 years later. And that went 12 issues. And then the Rainbow Rowell series started in 2022. So we had 2 years of that. She's intermittent. She doesn't tend to go very long. That's just the way it goes.
I got 2 years of a book, 24 issues. Not many runs last longer than that. They didn't just put somebody else on it.
Right. And we've read them all, going back to Dan Slott, now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're here for you, buddy.
I liked the show, and apparently it didn't do very well.
No, it didn't.
I thought the show was great. The show was everything that I liked about this series.
Was that the last good one?
That I remember.
Good series? Miss Marvel was okay, but not as good as She-Hulk.
I didn't see that.
When was Hawkeye?
A long time ago.
I haven't watched anything since, I don't think, since She-Hulk. Anyway, thanks for writing in, Brandon. Keep your head up. What is the point in this is the question we ask ourselves all the time.
And remember what the answer is. You can buy the t-shirt. Nothing makes sense and nothing matters. Come on, Brandon.
Thanks for writing in. We want to hear from you. Contact at iFanboy.com. Be part of the show. Ask us interesting questions. You can also do that for our Media Split by putting Media Split in the subject line of the email. This past week, we had our Media Split show just right behind this show on the feed. We reviewed Beetlejuice. We talked a bit about the 2024 Emmys. We talked a bit about Alien Romulus. We talked a bit about industry. We talked a bit about English Teacher and Bad Monkey. Those are some of the subjects we covered. But mostly we talked about Beetlejuice. So you can find that show on the feed right behind this one. Next week, maybe a Talksplode?
I'm a little scared. You know this con season thing? It seems to never end, is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, we may have to rejigger this schedule if indeed Josh can't get it done for next week.
Ouch.
2 weeks after that was the Watchmen Chapter 1 review. Maybe that'll be swapped with Talksplode. We'll have to see how that goes. And then 3 weeks, we'll have the Joker Folie à Deux review. And then in 4 weeks, the Booksplode review of The Dark Knight Strikes Again. That's the right title, right?
Yeah.
I always want to say The Dark Knight Strikes Back because The Empire Strikes Back, but I always have to change it in my head. Also in 4 weeks, Pick of the Week 950 Live. We'll be live streaming the recording on Friday, October 18th, starting around 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Put it in your calendars. Put a sticky note on your monitor. Clear your schedule. Tell your loved ones not to bother you for a good 3 hours.
You're just talking to me?
Well, also them, but yes, you. Put a sticky note on your monitor.
I won't see it.
We do the pick of the week. We talk about the patron pick, and then we jump right into your emails for the rest of the time. So the quality of the show depends on you. This is where your job comes in as a listener. So send in your emails to get on the show. Mark it 950 the subject line so we know it's for the show. We don't just use it on a regular episode. And no subject is off limits. Not saying we'll answer your question, but no subject is off limits. If you want to ask us about our favorite artists, our favorite writers, if you want to ask us questions about college or more stories about our young days, whatever you want, everything is on the table for our anniversary shows. So there was a question 700 episodes ago about threesomes. Remember that one?
No.
Yes, they asked us if we'd ever been a threesome together. That was fun. That was like episode 150 or 250. It was around there. Anywho.
Some people had crushes on us back then.
I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. Ryan will be there. We'll have drinks. It'll be a good old time. So episode 950 live, Friday, October 18th, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll put links on our website and social and all that stuff.
You can find our library of 1,402 shows over at ifanboy.com, wherever podcasts are sold. You can follow at iFanboy Comics on Instagram and find out what the pick of the week is there before the show comes out, and sometimes the best of the week in panels. You can follow us individually. See us Kilpatrick at Instagram, J. Flanagan at Instagram in New York City.
And subscribe to youtube.com/ifanboy. That's where you can find all of our old video shows back when we were young and handsome and people had crushes.
Well, young anyway.
And post the show every week there, too. This very show you listen to, you could be listening to it right now on YouTube, for all I know.
In which case, smash that like button.
Or the bell. Somebody recently at work asked me what the bell button did. I was like, you know what? I don't know. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to know.
There's a bell button?
There's a bell. There's all kinds of things happening there. It's scary.
You can add it to a list. I know that.
Please consider writing a review.
We want to put you on a list.
Or leaving a star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or like the things we said in the beginning. If you're on Pocket Casts, you can leave a rating.
The things we said in the beginning.
I had to scroll really fast at the top of the script.
There's a reminder.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
I think the things we said in the beginning was a Modest Mouse album.
All right. My name is Conor.
I'm Josh.
Bye.